Week 3 action in college football gives you plenty of prospects to look at. We talk about 2 battles out west and a bunch of players that you got to get your eyes on today on Locked On NFL Draft.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And of course, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ryan Tracy from Rogue Analytics and Locked On Chiefs. You can find him at Ryan Tracy NFL on Twitter. You can find me at Eric_Crocker on Twitter. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day, and also tell you that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, man, we're starting to talk about some more prospects, I don't even want to say big games, because we filtered through, we're trying to find where are the big games, where are the really big matchups. We want to see prospects on prospects, and we touched a little bit on that in Thursday's episode. Not as much going on over this weekend. Matter of fact, I was feeding for some college football, so my brother and I, we were going to go up to Fayetteville and watch the Arkansas Razorbacks against Missouri State. All right, so that just lets you know right now, not a whole lot going on in the college football landscape, but we did find a couple games, and this one definitely is a little meaningful to me. Fight on USC against Fresno State, and not so much because, I just, like watching USC, but a lot of pro prospects in this game. And you got to start with Fresno State and what they have at the quarterback position. Right now, USC, if you, into betonline.net and all that good stuff, USC is favored by 12 points. That might be something you're interested in taking. But aside from that, you got Jake Hayner. He's up for Senior Bowl. They got some weapons over there I definitely want to talk about. One of them that's having a down year. But first, let's start with Jacob Hayner. And this is a guy who people are high on. They want to see him do well. He's been efficient in this kind of this wide open spread offense. What are you expecting to see versus him against USC? And I guess what would you like to see?
Really, I've been kind of waiting for it. Like, I want it to pop. I want it to be something that takes advantage of the defense. Yeah. USC was really opportunistic week 1. They were fine week 2. But it's the battle there about the decision and the release to get the ball where it needs to go. There are guys on the outside on the USC secondary that can take advantage of that. So I want recognition. I want quick ball out. I want that torque coming out of his release and just get it there. Don't worry about making the big play. I think I worry that you're going to get locked into this. Hey, well, on the other side, there's Williams and Addison. Like, I got to make these giant plays or get guys these monstrous touchdowns. No, just get the ball out. Hit it on rhythm, show that you're more efficient, you can command that offense. That's really what I want to see. You've watched more of them than I have to this point, though. What do you think is the obstacle to that?
Well, I think really being able to get the ground game going. And they have Jordan Mims there, senior running back out of East Palo Alto, and he's a guy that they're going to really want to get going right away. On the season right now, 36 carries for 194 yards, or 95 yards, He does have 4 touchdowns as well, averaging over 5 yards per carry. They're going to need a big game out of him to take some of the pressure off of Jake Hayner and maybe slow up the pass rush just a little bit to where now you have those passing lane windows for Hayner to use his quick release, good feet, some of his mobility, but he wants to play from the pocket and win. If he's going to do that, you're going to have to slow up USC's pass rush. That's going to be a big thing. Another thing that can definitely help Jacob Hayner is your receiver. And where is he? I think that's the big question right now. Jalen Carter, another guy who's on the Senior Bowl watch list. But right now, he's being outplayed by some of his counterpart teammates over there at Fresno State. Maybe he's getting more attention. Whatever it is, he hasn't put up the production that you would like to see from a guy who is potentially, kind of at it's a non-power 5, right? I was going to say smaller school, but non-power 5. They've done well, but you want to see him really take off. And I think, again, you talked about some of the defenders on the outside for USC. This is a big opportunity for Jalen Carter to really go out there and say, you know what, I belong to be able to play on the big stage with some of these guys that maybe were higher prospects than me, and I can produce just as well. So big game. He did prove this last year against UCLA. Now he has to do it again against USC. And USC, we know what they have on offense. A lot of firepower. It starts with the quarterback position. Guy Seth Williams over there, transfer from Oklahoma. He's a guy who's really making everything look so easy right now, so simple. Now, they played against teams like Rice. Now they're playing Fresno State. You want to see him continue to really handle business. You see what he's doing, the guy he's throwing it to, Jordan Addison, obviously transferred from Pittsburgh, guy who won the Biletnikoff Award last year, had 4 touchdowns for 200 yards in his last outing. Can those guys keep it going? If so, that's going to be really tough for Fresno State.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And I like Crocker having to play up to the competition and get himself on that list. The guys that you've got to watch, because Addison's already there. My question to you is, like, I feel like he can make some noise here in this game, but I don't know that he can really up his stock much. That is Addison. But in the coming weeks, clearly by midpoint of the season, he'll have stiffer competition. He'll have something that he can say, hey, I am the WR1 in this class. I don't know if he can get there today. Is there anything you think he can do that you want to see or that can up his stock in your eyes?
My biggest thing I always like to see, and I take this, thought process into preseason, right? In preseason football, a lot of times you have some younger guys and you might have a starter in here and there, especially now, right? They don't play starters too much. But if there is a starter in there, does he look like a starter against guys that potentially won't be playing in the NFL? Right? Is he really kind of dominating his position? And that's what I want to see from Jordan Addison. If you are going to be potentially the best wide receiver in this class, which he has the talent to be, then you got to go out there and you got to really dominate Fresno State. It starts here with doing what you're supposed to do against the competition that could be a little inferior. So I think for him, I don't know if he can raise his stock in this game, but he definitely can lower it if he doesn't go out there and really produce and show, at least some of the things that we saw in the previous week with a huge game.
Yeah, fair enough. And if you're looking for something to watch that isn't a specialist, I got one sleeper in this game. It's Brett Nealon. He is the center at SC, redshirt senior. He's allowed 1 pressure so far this season. He's a guy that could get himself onto the radar with a nice performance. I think he's been playing pretty well so far.
Nice. And you got Dyer, running back at USC. He's a guy a little under the radar, transferred from Oregon. He doesn't wear gloves, so he looks a little funny out there, but runs the ball well, is a guy who is standing there on block as well. A nice little sleeper to watch for USC and see if he can continue to keep things rolling and keep some of these young running backs off of his back right now. All right. But when we get back, we're going to talk some more about prospects, games. You got Georgia, South Carolina. What are we watching for in that game? We're going to talk about that and much more. But first, I travel a lot. And when I'm traveling, a lot of times I go get a rental car. I go to Hertz. I go to Enterprise. Really, I just always go to Enterprise. But they got something better for y'all. You don't have to rent a car. You can go to Turo. And Turo is the world's largest sharing marketplace. All right, with Turo, you can book any car that you want, wherever you want it, whenever you want it, from a community of local hosts. All right. So pretty much you can go to people and they will actually let you borrow their car. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the U.S., Canada, and the U.K. Book a spacious SUV for your team to travel in, or a minivan for your family trip. Get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday. If you want to get a little fancy, take your wife or your girlfriend out, show her a really good time, and drive a lavish car. Find affordable economy cars if you are on a budget or you just live in California and gas is like $6 a gallon. All right. You can also test drive a new electric car if you're thinking about getting a Tesla, or they got the new Mustang that's an electric car as well. You want to try to see, does this fit me and my style? You can find that out by getting one of these cars from Turo. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you, so you don't even have to go anywhere. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms and conditions and exclusions apply. Ditch the boring rental cars and go find you a nice drive at Turo.com. All right, guys, we want to thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And definitely thank you guys all for tuning in to myself, Eric Crocker, and Ryan Tracy. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Georgia against South Carolina. And again, try to find games that had some intriguing storylines this week. A little tough, so we're like, all right, we're going to have to talk a little bit more about prospects. But Georgia, South Carolina, a little bit of storylines because Let's start at the quarterback position. And you have Spencer Rattler. He's a guy who's kind of bouncing back when it came into college football, just in general, as a guy, right? Like, he is the guy, high ceiling, high upside. What's he going to do? What's he going to be? All that good stuff. Last year, probably projected to be the number 1 overall pick until things just went kind of haywire, had to transfer out of Oklahoma. You also have Stetson Bennett. He came up a totally different way. A guy that was a walk-on, had to leave, go back to junior college, earn a scholarship, come back to Georgia, work his way into the starting lineup and beat out guys like JT Daniels, and ultimately leading the team to a national championship and winning. And now he's starting off on fire. Has thrown for back-to-back 300-yard games. I wouldn't have expected this. Now he's going head up with Spencer Rattler. So you get to kind of see the two guys on display at the same time. I think Stetson Bennett might even be a little bit more athletic. He might be able to use his mobility even a little more and shows the same type of arm strength and ability. So going into this game, I mean, what are you expecting to see from these two guys?
I mean, for me, this is make it or break it for Spencer Rattler. We've seen some questionable decision-making so far this season. The rest of the year is always going to come back to, what did you do when you got a chance to play Georgia? Keely Ringo's going to be out there. Smith's going to be out there patrolling the back. Can you get anything done? If Spencer Rattler's even able to show a modicum of ability to attack that defense, it doesn't have to be a win. It doesn't have to be, a 300-yard day, but it has to be the ability to pick and choose, recognize what they're doing, and attack them in a way that can actually pay off. I got to see the recognition in the mental side of this. We know that he can throw the ball when he has an opportunity. You can question maybe some of the pass catchers that he's working with on this offense, but it's about him and his recognition. If he fails to do anything against this team, I have a hard time seeing him have a better chance to really make a splash and get back into the discussion.
Yeah, and I mean, Spencer Rattler, he played decent against Arkansas, but they just couldn't muster up enough points. They lost 44-30. Maybe you can put a lot of the blame on the defense not being able to stop KJ Jefferson. We'll talk about him another time. But you talked about weapons for South Carolina, and there is one guy that has been stepping up. You got Wells Jr. out there, had almost 200 receiving yards in the last game, but that's it. They get nothing out of the run game with McDowell. Spencer Rattler has kind of been up and down, threw for a lot of yards, but nothing of much substance. All right. You're going to need much more from him. And if he's going to try to catapult his name back into kind of one of the top guys in the sense of this draft class at the quarterback position, which most people have kind of written him off already, he's going to have a big game against Georgia and show that he belongs. So that's going to be something that I'm truly interested in watching in this game. Also, you got some other guys to watch for. Broderick Jones, offensive tackle for Georgia. He's going to be in there. Jalen Carter, defensive lineman for Georgia. We all know that they have guys at every level that are pro prospect. You thought they lost all of them in the last draft, but They just continue to reload and have guys in the waiting. So a couple more prospects there that I'm definitely excited to sit down and watch come this weekend.
Yeah, keep an eye on Nolan Smith as well. This is a primetime game where he can show himself. I think he is the guy that is right now should be getting more attention, but isn't. So keep an eye on what he's doing as well.
All right. We talked about that, and we will get into some more teams, players, prospects, all that stuff and more. But right now, we're going to talk to you a little bit about betonline.net and how it is the number one source for all of your pro and college football betting needs and sports information this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, podcasts, including this year's opening week games. And, I mean, you can bet on odds. You can bet on props. They got odds right now of Jimmy Garoppolo. Will he be traded? Will he not be traded? Will it be due to injury? You can bet on all of that and put money down and earn you some money. BetOnline is continued source for all of your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head over right now today to your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action going on at BetOnline, where the game starts. Bo Nix, he kind of picked back up the pieces that kind of broke apart when he played against Georgia. They got destroyed there. He didn't look good there. Everybody's talking about, oh man, it's just not going to work. But played against Eastern Washington, not a great opponent, but they have shown here and there that they can be a top competition type team, where at least the Pac-12 team couldn't do it here. Bo Nix only throws 5 incompletions on the entire game and also throws 5 touchdowns. Well, now he's playing against BYU, and this is one of 2 matchups this weekend of ranked opponents, right? Like two teams that are going to be ranked. You got Oregon 25th and you got BYU. They're ranked higher. So what prospects in this game outside of maybe even Bo Nix are you looking forward to seeing?
I think Nix might have a chance to really step forward. I don't see a ton of pass rush coming at him. I'm intrigued by a couple of things. It starts with the linebackers. I think going into the season, we want to see Nuffy Sewell and be the guy, however you want to put that, whether it's the guy leading the team or the guy making the big plays. Honestly, he's been outplayed by Thule, the BYU linebacker, and I want to see if they can switch that around. I think that there is a possibility for that, depending on how the game flow goes. I like that. Sewell's got a guy next to him, Justin Flo, that I think I've been pretty disappointed in so far. I know he's had an injury history, but I was expecting more. This might give him a chance to get back onto the bright side of it. We'll see what happens with Hall and Brooks out of the backfield. A lot coming there. And I do want to highlight one guy on the offensive line for BYU that I don't think is getting enough attention, because DJ Johnson, I'm wanting to see some on the edge for Oregon, right? Slow start for him this season. I think he has a chance to make a splash, but he's going against Freeland, their left tackle, who's like 6'8", and from what I understand has an enormous reach that might dwarf everybody. I think he's a junior coming out in this next draft if he chooses to elect to go. This is going to be a solid test for him, one of the few that we've seen to this point.
You also got Jaren Hall, quarterback in for BYU, one of maybe some of the underrated quarterbacks in the sense of this country and where things are going right now. Is completing 67% of his passes right now. Another game that is playing that has some prospects that kind of caught my eye a little bit, Clemson versus Louisiana Tech. And somehow you and I were both kind of surprised to see Clemson ranked 5th in the nation, which it doesn't feel like it. We'll see if that kind of continues throughout the year. Clemson typically, obviously, a good team right now. But they got some players here, especially on defense at every single level. You got Myles Murphy, edge rusher, Bryan Bressee at defensive line, and Trenton Simpson at the linebacker position. So 3 guys that definitely will be seeing, how they just dominate and what does it look like. I'd expect them to kind of kick Louisiana Tech's butt, but after last week, you never know. You got Notre Dame, they're losing to Marshall. You got the Appalachian State beat. Gosh, Auburn? Was it Auburn, I think it was? I mean, goodness gracious, there were teams just dropping left and right. So you can't discount any of these teams, but I'd assume Louisiana Tech probably gets a little dismantled against Clemson, and those are a few players that stick out. And there was one player that I did not mention. All right, DJ Uiagalelei. All right, DJ. Didn't mention him. And this is a guy who, again, a year ago, you probably would have said would have been the number 1 pick coming out this year, especially after watching him his freshman year against Notre Dame. It looked like a guy that, hey, this sky's the limit for him. And it just hasn't turned out that way. And things have looked a little weird. Even last week, playing against Furman, not great. The efficiency was solid. 21 out of 27 passes he completed for 231 yards. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception against Furman. You want him to dominate that opponent. You want him to really destroy and put up video games numbers like we saw Bo Nix do against Eastern Washington. And that just was not the case for DJ against Furman. So the jury's still kind of out on him. I want to see if they can open things up a little bit. I like how they use his mobility. I like him running the ball. They talked about him losing weight to be a little bit more light and nimble on his feet. But right now, we just need to see everything come full circle and come together, because he definitely still has a ton of talent.
Yeah, it's a little early, but I'm going to be watching Will Shipley. I like what I see. He's only a sophomore, but not draft eligible yet. But I'm going to see what he brings to that offense. He might be Uiagalelei's best friend back there. So let's see what they can do this week.
Big time matchups, man. And we're going to try to continue to touch on all of those things and more, especially in the upcoming weeks when you start getting into some conference play. That's what I'm really excited to watch for. But you guys keep watching us right here, Locked On NFL Draft, and we want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And for your second listen of the day, you got Locked On 49ers with myself and Bryan Peacock. You got Locked On Chiefs with Ryan Tracy, and you got all the other shows across the Locked On network. All right, but that's going to do it for us. We'll see y'all come Monday. Peace.